Since we didn't have any money, I had a scarcity mentality. That's the mindset.
Sure.
That was conditioning I grew
Sure.
up with. We only have so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't want to lose it or spend it because I don't have any more to get. $5,000, that's my pie.
Mm-hmm.
How do I allocate that $5,000? I've got to go to a house or rent. I've got to go cars. I got to go food. I got to do the things. And then they end up and go, man, I don't have enough, or what do I do next? In my mind, it's simple but not easy. How do I make my pie bigger? Abundance really comes from leverage. How do I leverage my skills for somebody else to solve a problem or create value? How would my life be different if I had an abundance?
Treading water is the same as drowning to people like you and me. You better start swimming. Welcome to I'm the One podcast. I'm your host, Rob Green.
What's up, Casey?
How you doing?
Doing great, man. Living my life. Awesome.
Right. Loving it too, right?
Yeah. Life is great, man.
Nice.
A lot of people say living the dream, like almost sarcastically.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it when I say it. I'm living the dream. I love my life. I'm just grateful for everything I have.
That's beautiful. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
with that sort of mindset, I guess that leads me into a good question is we talk about mental models and then improving mindsets. And, is there a mindset that you think is the most important for a successful life?
Yeah, I mean, I think a foundational mindset that I think about a lot is, scarcity versus abundance mindset. Since we didn't have any money, I had a scarcity mentality. That's the mindset.
Sure.
That was conditioning I grew
Sure.
up with. We only have so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't want to lose it or spend it because I don't have any more to get.
Right.
And I think that I'd say most of society is either in that situation or conditioned to believe that I only have so much. It's one pie. You see this a lot in politics. You see this in business too, where it's like the pie is only this big and I only have this big of a pie. I can't do anything about it. How do I cut up the same size pie into different pieces?
Okay.
And when I really learned to switch my mindset from scarcity to abundance, I look at that same pie and I go, well, why don't we make the pie bigger? We can just make the pie bigger. What if we made the pie bigger? Well, now we have more to give out. And I think it's a really simple, but at the same time, complex idea.
I was just going to say, how do you do that?
How do you make the pie bigger? I mean, it's a great, let's use wealth as an example, financial. Yeah. I can look at it and say, we've talked about a dream budget before. I could say, all right, I only make X amount of dollars, make $5,000 a month. And if anybody's ever done any budgeting, they say, all right, I got $5,000. That's my pie.
Mm-hmm.
How do I allocate that $5,000? I've got to go to a house or rent. I've got to go cars. I got to go food. I got to do the things. And then they end up and go, man, I don't have enough, or what do I do next? And my mindset is, well, I know this is going to sound simplistic and easy, but it's not necessarily, it's simple, but not easy. How do I make my pie bigger? So if I take that $5,000 pie and I move it to $10,000, right? Now I've got more money to allocate.
Sure.
And I think that comes back to the belief that there's an abundance out there. So many people think that, and I think they're completely misguided on there. You see a lot of snowflakes on the internet today and social media that I don't think they really understand capitalism, to be honest with you. Or maybe they do, but they don't want to.
Sure.
Too much socialism out there, in my opinion. But I don't think they really understand. They think for one person to win, someone else has to lose.
Right.
They think it's a zero-sum game.
Right.
If I make $1, they're completely misguided and don't understand economics that you lost $1.
Right.
That's not how economics works.
Sure.
It's as simple as that. So thinking about it differently, if I could make $1, if I could be more productive and I could create a way to create more resources, or I could expand the economic system by finding a way to be more productive in the world, I think that grows the pie, which is the abundance, which allows people to spend and allocate those resources better. A great example, which I believe will be an absolute game changer, is as we figure out energy costs.
Mm-hmm.
As we get energy costs down to zero, whether that is through geothermal, solar,
sure.
all the natural ways to do that, get off of coal, get off of oil, aliens come solve our problems. We finally figure out who built the pyramids in Egypt. I don't know. I don't know what the answer. I mean, I think the sun is probably the most likely, from what I know, the most likely answer to the problem being able to harness it.
Looking that way.
We've made significant improvements over the last 30 years. You've seen the cost per kilowatt hour of solar just drop. It exponentially drops, right? That is going to continue. At some point, we will figure out how to be more abundant so that energy cost is never a calculation. There was a physics breakthrough recently around superconductivity at room temperatures, and they haven't been able to replicate that study yet. I know a bunch of people are trying. This just happened like a couple weeks ago. If we could actually eliminate the loss in energy transformation, it would change everything we know about energy. If energy was free, imagine, we're in Phoenix where it's hot as Hades,
Right.
right? People have to pay electricity,
Yeah.
HVAC, it's expensive. Imagine where you could live if you didn't have any cost structure to energy. If you could
Mars.
just run it, maybe Mars, I don't know. I think Saudi Arabia hit some crazy temperature recently.
Ooh.
And energy is one of those great examples that is an unlock to all sorts of other abundance. It's a fundamental unlock. I think
You're talking about energy going to zero.
or close enough to zero, it's negligible.
But that would never happen in this capitalistic world, though, would it?
I think that it could. I think that, I mean, there's, ever since I was a kid, everybody's talking about cold fusion and the dream of cold fusion. And I'm not savvy enough to understand exactly what could happen around that, to be honest with you. But I do think that there are ways and people are working towards reducing those costs in a significant manner, that if we could get to that level of negligible cost, right? I mean, well, let's use some really easy examples. The internet was a great breakthrough. Foundational change in how we work and think and take action.
Sure.
1996, people thought it was a fad.
Right.
Now, you can't live without the internet.
Right.
You cannot function as a human being.
Literally, there are people out there that could not live.
They could not live. They couldn't survive without the internet, right? It became a foundational change that allowed us to increase productivity. I think the current foundational change that's happened in the last year is AI. There is no question in my mind that AI is a transformational technology that will change the way we work and the way there will be businesses that use AI and then businesses that used to be, because you can become that more productive, whether you're using ChatGPT, whether you're using Claude .ai, any type of LLM, any type of AI tool. If you know how to use it, it makes you that much more productive. Well, anytime you increase productivity, it allows you to do more in the same amount of time. Right? I think AI is a great example of abundance. And there's a lot of debate on whether AI is going to kill us all and take over the world and drop nuclear bombs. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's probably a little bit of an overreaction.
So going back to the mindset, though, like how does somebody go from that? Because I think most of us do have that scarcity mindset. And you have that 5,000 that you're working with. How do we practically, get that larger? Theoretically, I get it. But what are some things that we can do to in the mindset?
I think I'd start with, actually, I think this is a feedback loop. And what I mean by that is I think it's action first.
Sure.
And then it confirms the belief. And then you take more action. Right? So an example would be, we'll use a really easy example. Say you have one job and you go and you work a part-time job. You take a second job, part-time, to make a little bit more money.
Got it.
You've just expanded that pie. Right? You now make more money. We're talking about wealth again.
Now your time scarce.
So you're giving up time. You're trading time to make more money.
Got it.
But you're actually increasing your ability for resources and capital.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
Easiest thing, anybody can do that. Anybody can work more. Anybody can go get another job. Anybody can go online, go to Fiverr and Upwork. Almost everybody who's online now has some type of skill, and they could go do a task. I mean, shoot, they could do TaskRabbit. They could go drive for Uber Eats, Amazon, all of these ways to expand their capital and their money. That's the easiest, simplest today way to make more money. Agreed?
Yes, 100%.
Not the most efficient.
Right.
Not the ideal world.
Right.
But the easiest way to create some abundance financially in their life. Right? If you take that action and you have more money, you see things a little bit differently. And what I mean by that is now you say, okay, well, how do I now change my thought process around how do I do the same thing? How do I now make more money and increase the size of the pie without me trading my time and my labor?
Gotcha.
Right? But you've already proven to yourself there's one easy way to do this, trading time, labor, expertise, whatever it might be. And then I think the thought comes back to abundance really comes from leverage. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is how do I leverage my skills for somebody else to solve a problem or create value? A friend of mine that I've been advising for the last couple of years, one of the key lessons I've learned from him, he's been extremely wealthy and very, very successful. What Mike said to me, he said, what we want to do is create tremendous value and then have the ability to capture a significant portion of the value we create. So a lot of times we create value. You and I just talked about this earlier today before we got onto this podcast about you help people all the time for free.
Right.
Okay. So you created value for people,
Sure.
which is great. I want to do that. You want to do that. I love helping people. But then in those particular instances, you haven't had the ability to capture any of that value.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, add value, create value, and then capture a portion of it and make some money off it.
Right.
Now, let's start with the creating value portion. I believe, to my core, the more I help people, the more successful I'll be.
Sure.
I'm wired that way. I don't know if it's from all the books I've read. I don't know if this was ingrained in me when I was a kid. But I find a way to help people. I'm convinced it will pay off in the long run. It may not be in the short run.
And what's your thought process behind that? Like, why do you actually think? Is it the universe is going to repay you? Is it no? I mean, honestly, like, what's your thought behind that?
I have a little bit of a woo-woo belief around the universe, and this does serve me well. I believe the universe works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, some people go, "Wait, what?" I don't understand. And I would have been one of those people years ago.
Right.
I have a positive, optimistic belief that it's going to work out in the end.
Yeah.
And the universe works for me. And that belief gives me more confidence to take action and help. And it's interesting because as I've helped people, I definitely haven't captured a significant portion of the value I've created, but I have built a lot of great relationships, a lot of great friends, a great network. I constantly try to add value in every interaction that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that it benefits me and my family and my friends as I do that over time. I probably could do a better job of capturing more of that value. And I've now, as I've gotten older and more mature, I say no to things more often because I just don't have the time and energy to do as much value creation as I want. How can I capture some more of that value down the road is how I think about it. So I think abundance is a couple of things. I firstly believe that if I help people and add value to people's lives, we're creating abundance for them. When I create abundance for them, I believe that it feels and feeds and allows me to create abundance for me.
Right.
And that could be directly, it could be indirectly. It could be I help you, you pay me. Okay, that's like the simplest form.
Sure.
Everybody has a problem, and every other person has expertise in specific problem. If you match up expertise with a problem, the person with the problem is, and they're willing to pay, they have a capacity to pay and a willingness to pay. That's the easiest transaction.
Right.
You pay me, I help you.
Sure.
We agree on terms. Done. That's the simplest way to create abundance for that person and for myself. Right.
Sure.
A better way is to use leverage in terms of being an entrepreneur, right? And creating value and having other people that don't have my skill sets and building a company and creating abundance for everybody. I also believe that when I win, everybody wins.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think just to speak real quick on the woo-woo, and then also when you're giving to other people, whether you're getting back from the universe or whatever, you're getting back, you're learning when you're teaching others and helping others, you're learning as well. I always tell people when I'm coaching them, I'm like, I learn as much as you do, and I get as much out of this as you do, whether you believe it or not. And another thing on the woo-woo part is there's neuroscience behind it. You start rewiring yourself that way, and then you just automatically become that. It's just basically 95% of who we are is our subconscious. So the more you give, the more you become that. And whether you want to believe it's the universe or not, you start to wire that. There's energy, blah, blah, blah. So
yeah, see, I kind of feel like you do. I get into the blah, blah, blah part of it. And I used to be a little bit closed-minded to that. Yeah. And honestly, my wife and I did a vision board with a coach that we've worked with in the past.
Woo-woo. I'm just kidding.
Total woo-woo. Yeah, exactly.
No, I love it. No.
5 years ago, I'd have been like, no, man, we're not doing a vision board. But I was like, I'm very open to trying new things.
Yeah.
So Lana, a dear friend of ours, said, I'm going to walk you through a vision board. We did the vision board exercise remotely via Zoom. I think it was during COVID. I absolutely loved it. Came up with my own board.
Yeah. I
love my vision board.
Yeah.
And at the end came up with a statement of intention.
Love it.
And my statement of intention I created is now my mantra. I choose a life of growth and learning through playfulness that is successful. So my number one thing is what you talked about, which is growth and learning. Number two part, it better be fun.
Yeah.
And number three, I believe it'll be successful in the end.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in a really unique position now financially that I don't have to go make that money today. And, we go to Maslow's hierarchy and you have to take care of the short term before you can worry about the long term. I got to have shelter. I got to have food. I got to have water. I have clothes on my back. Once you have the basic necessities of life, it allows you to free think about long-term a little bit more. And so I'm always playing the long-term game. I'm investing long-term, adding value long-term. And then I have to assess whether that's a good investment for me, for my time and my energy perspective.
Yeah.
And so if we go down that path, it's all intertwined to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's one little trick necessarily around thinking about it from an abundance belief and abundance mindset. So how can people take action is really the key. How can I start thinking differently? And I think some of these little tweaks and tools, think about what you really want in life. Maybe go do a vision board exercise. Think about comes back to self-awareness. What do I really want in life?
Mm-hmm.
And then what's most important to me? And I'm constantly reevaluating this.
Yeah.
You know,
As you should.
constantly, I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to spend time with my family.
Because you're going to be different next month, 6 months, a year than you are now. So you have to keep
Absolutely.
on yourself. You have to
Absolutely.
pay attention to yourself in order to keep growing and become the person you want to be. And again, the whole vision board thing and what you're talking about, and like telling people to go do that, they're now doing that, which instead of just waking up, doing the same thing, going to sleep, waking up, doing the same thing, they're now actively looking at themselves, which is going to wake them up, realize a few different things. And then, like you said, it starts to get ingrained in you, and that's who you become. And so your mantras and all that, I love it because that's who you become.
Yeah.
And then you start becoming that without having to consciously think it after the repetition.
Yeah, and it's funny because after you start thinking differently, it's hard to think how you used to think.
Right.
How do I can't, one of the guys that works with me Joshua asked me that one day. He's like, well, how did you think when you were my age? And I said, that was so long ago. I can't remember how I thought back then. And I guarantee it's nowhere near how I think now.
Mm-mm.
And so that's what I encourage everybody to do is really just get some self-awareness around it and then say, well, how would my life be different if I had an abundance mindset? How and what actions would I take if I thought differently about abundance? You see a lot of people, I hate tit for tat. What I mean by that is I see a lot of people, a few people I've interacted with. They say, if I do this for you, then you do this for me. I hate that.
Yeah.
We have a no tit for tat policy in our house.
Nice.
I don't like that. I do things for people because I enjoy it and I love helping people. I don't do it for someone with the expectation of, if I do this for you, then I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I just feel like that type of mindset is a scarcity mindset.
And it comes off different too.
It comes off completely different.
Yeah, when people read that, they understand. It's like, oh, that's not so genuine.
Yeah, I've had people say it to me in business that are fellow entrepreneurs. Hey, if you show me this, I'll teach you how to do this. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like that feeling at all. That doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
What problems do you have? How can I help you? And then when I have a problem, if I ask you for help, my expectation is there's some reciprocity there, but it's unsaid. You don't need to say that.
Sure.
If you help people from an authenticity and a genuine perspective, most people will then help you in return if you ever need help.
And you're happier too, because you're doing it genuinely. You're enjoying it.
Yes. This podcast is a labor of love for me. I want to help people live an amazing, extraordinary life. And I believe that having an understanding of who you are, focusing on wealth, health, and relationships, I just love that framework. It allows people to live a better life. And like I said this before about like when I win, everybody wins. I feel like that. If I'm winning, my family's winning. My team members are winning. My friends are winning. My network is winning. And it's interesting because I've kind of crossed over that chasm a little bit now where when you see somebody else win, I actually get more excited sometimes for them than I do from when I win.
Oh, 100%.
And that's crazy. It's a weird feeling.
Oh, it's way better.
It seems obvious and apparent when it happens with your child.
Yeah.
You're like, I love this person more than anything in the world. And you see them succeed and you see them do a sport or school, whatever. You're just so excited for them. And you love that deep down, right? It seems very intuitive and obvious to people. But then when you see other people, you don't even know them maybe necessarily that well, and you see them win, and you're like, wow, that is awesome.
It's amazing because they change in front of you. And it's just like, oh, wow. And hopefully it's not just that moment or, but that's a seed that gets into them and that changes their life forever in one way or the other.
How can I help somebody create an inflection point in their life? So I'll give a great example of this. One of my employees, Oasis, came to me. I think he was 23. He wanted to become an expert in e-commerce. He had done a private brand, struggled with it, ran out of capital, normal situation. This is a few years ago.
So he's like everybody else.
He's like everybody else that goes on Amazon and buys a course
Yeah, right.
on
There you
YouTube
go.
and
Oh,
struggles
no.
with it. They told you 80%, but if you have that 20%, it allows you to make money.
Right.
And so he very smart. He said, okay, how do I go learn from somebody who's really great at doing this already? He lives in Phoenix. He looked up people, found experts, people with their own brands, found myself and one of my friends, and reached out to us
Oh,
cold.
good for him. Good for him.
And he started by adding value.
Yeah.
Sent an email, cold email to me. Hey, I saw your brands. I think you should do this, this, and this better.
Oh, interesting.
Amazing. Like,
Now,
talk about a way to get a job.
Oh, well,
Money.
also, some people could take that the wrong way. Like, oh, don't tell me how to do my business.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So he did this to my friend Matt, and Matt hates when I tell this story. I've told this story like 100 times in front of him ever since then. He did both of them. He actually showed up at Matt's office.
Really?
Matt got freaked out.
Yeah.
He had emailed me cold. I sent it to my wife and I said, you got to interview this guy. She interviewed him, loved him. I interviewed him, and I said, who else did you do this for? He said, Matt Kolatsky. And I said, Matt's a buddy of mine. What happened? He goes, I showed up at his office. I go, and then what happened? He goes, nothing really happened. I said, okay. He came in and he interviewed. But I called Matt and I said, what happened? And
good.
Matt says, oh, he freaked me out. And I go, I would have hired the guy on the spot. So we had two different mindsets
100%.
around the same person.
Yeah.
And Oasis has been amazing. So I'd like to rub Matt's nose in it as much as I can. Anytime he gets so frustrated with the story as I tell it, now it's going to be out on the podcast. It was perfect for him. So he'll love this episode. What I loved about Oasis, he came in, he added value. For anybody interviewing for a better job or a new job, add value. Find a way to help them with their problem. This goes back to a core belief that I have. If you want to find someone living the life you want and add value to them in a way, they cannot ignore you. This is advice I give to all the young guys I play soccer with. Like, just go find someone living the life you want. Find a way to add so much value that they have no choice but to talk to you.
What if they can't figure out how to add value to that person? Like, I'm trying to put myself in that situation, right?
Find somebody else that can help them figure that out.
Yeah. No,
Everyone has family or network or friends or teachers or something. Just find out a way to add value.
You don't like mowing lawns, so I would show up and be like, hey, man, I'll mow your lawn.
Hey, who's this person?
At least I get to talk to you and you never know it. I love the fact that he did that and he hit both people. Didn't just go after one, but hit two because, like you said, different reactions.
So I interviewed him in person. I said, hey, Wes, what'd you do? One of my favorite questions, what'd you do to prepare for this interview? He said, I did this. I listened to a podcast you were the guest on, boom, 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 boom. And I did this work. He's hired.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
Nice.
Hire him. So I hired him. Earlier this year, came to me in March and said, hey, I'm going to move on. I want to start my own agency. And it was a bittersweet moment because selfishly and for the team and our business, it was very sad to see him leave.
Sure.
But super happy for him.
Yeah.
And we're still friends. He just came in the office last week.
Nice.
Same industry. He's got an agency. So he's managing similar types of e-commerce businesses.
Did he start locally here?
Funny enough, he left for India, I think a couple weeks later. His wife is in India and he's working on getting her a green card and eventually U.S. citizenship. So he was actually over there for the last few months and just got back. So, but it's that enjoyment you get out of seeing somebody else succeed. And he said, hey, listen, coming here was an inflection point for me in my life because now I hadn't seen it happen. And that was the brilliance of what he did. He said, how do I go learn from somebody who's already doing what I want to do?
Yeah.
He'd put the time and energy and he bought a course and he'd gone through YouTube and he had done a bunch of stuff, but he got to live in it. And that was part of my pitch to him to come and work here.
Oh, big time.
So, hey, you're not going to do just marketing. You're going to learn. We're going to start a brand. We're going to file a trademark. We're going to create a logo. We're going to do we're going to negotiate. We're going to sell a brand.
Yeah.
We're going to do all of the things as I call it like entrepreneur 101.
Yeah.
You're going to come in here and see all of these aspects, the good and the bad. And I'm going to share with you like the bad part too. It's not just the good. Sure. It's not always perfect. Right. It's never a straight line. It's always the roller coaster. Right. And so I'm going to share with you and you're going to learn from that. So seeing him being able to take that and go on his own and succeed, you feel like kind of like a proud dad.
No.
But you just feel like I love seeing that for people to take action and then making what they want happen.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this kind of mindset about limiting beliefs. I said, what's your goal? And he gave me a number for December. And I said, you need to double that goal or add a zero to that. You need a bigger goal. Like you're going to get there, no problem. You need to think bigger.
Was he cool with
To
that?
shoot.
Or?
Absolutely. He
Yeah,
immediately changed it. He's like,
yeah.
I got to do that and go bigger. So he's got that mindset already. But, we all put those beliefs in, realistic goals we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So I think that the key for me is like, what can people do to take action
Yeah.
around this?
Yeah.
And I think that people need to start taking action and just adding value to people, right? How do I find somebody, and you said this earlier, how do I find somebody to add value to that's living my life? And maybe they can't add that value yet. And I think it's almost, in almost every case, you could find some way to add value to that person.
Okay.
With that being said, go practice adding value to your friends, your family. Find something you can help them with. Call a friend today or tomorrow that is got a challenge in some way that you think you could add some value to. So, hey, you know what? I was thinking about you a lot, and I just want to find a way where I could try to help you.
And I love that. Now you're getting outside of your box too, right? And now you're thinking about them instead of just your life and what's going on with them. And then you're going to learn from that as well. So that's a win-win.
And I'm going to go back one step further, especially for younger people or people who haven't had enough business experience yet. They may struggle with what are they good at.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what you're good at to be able to bring value typically. Because you got to find the gap between what someone else is good at, what you're good at.
Sure.
And the easiest recommendation I have for that to take action is ask your friends, what do you come to me for? You'll know this probably, but if you don't, ask your friends, hey, what do you think I'm great at? What would you say you would call me for help with?
That's actually a scary thought too, because I know there's a 360 that people do where you critique the and you come back with stuff that you're like, oh wow, that's what they think of me, or that's what But again, that's how you learn, right? You don't learn by having roses everywhere. It's by going through all of that stuff. So I like that approach. That's cool.
Yeah, just give somebody an opportunity to really understand themselves a little better, but really like, what am I good at?
Yeah.
If your friends or your family always come to you for finance help, for example, or maybe you're an accountant. That's an obvious one, right? I'm a CPA, and therefore they always come to me for accounting help. I get that, but they probably also come to for other things, right? You're a really good problem solver. You're great with networking, interviewing. Right. So I have a friend who had an opportunity recently he came across just a couple weeks ago. And so one of his friends had got a job making a lot of money at a company doing sales. And he explained to me the situation. I said, listen, you need to go get this job. Like this job is potentially 10x better than the job you have now.
So his buddy went and got this job?
Buddy went and got a job, made a significant amount of money in 1 month.
Was he working with him before?
No, they're just friends.
Okay.
And it's a job that my friend does sales. He's going to crush it in this job. So he called me and told me, and I said, no, you're going to go like not maybe. You need to go do this now.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, what do you think I should do? So we laid out a plan. And I said, you need to go to your friend. You need to call him up. And I said, you need to say to him, I'm coming to hang out with you for one of your work days. I'm going to ride along with you. I want to see what this job is like. I want to do this. I did this years ago when I was doing wholesale mortgages. A friend of mine got this job, and I was like, I'm coming to work with you today. He's like, okay. We went out to breakfast. We went out to work. I wanted to understand what he was actually doing for his job.
I love that. That's a great way.
Because then I really could assess whether it was something I want to do.
Exactly.
And by the end of by the afternoon, I was doing this job for him. So I had experience in it. I was quoting deals, and I was like, I'm getting this job.
Nice.
So I told my friend this. I said, listen, you need to go get this, get understanding, find out what's important about this job. Is it something you want to do? Is it really as good of an opportunity as you think it is? Once that happens, now you need to do whatever you need to do to go get that job. So many people say, oh, I sent out 100 resumes.
Oh.
I applied to 1,000 jobs.
The worst.
Well, you pushed a button on Indeed.
Yeah, it's
That's
so
not
bad.
getting you a great opportunity. But when you see these opportunities, just go grab it. So funny enough, we talked the other day. He had talked to his friend, spent some time with him like on a Sunday. He talked to the hiring manager last week and set the interview for today. He left me a message going, hey, I'm going to the interview today. I'm excited.
Nice.
Thanks for your help. And I left him a message and said, man, you got to go get this. You're going to crush it. He just left me a message about an hour ago and saying, hey, I got the job. And so I think he's going to absolutely crush it. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, is he'll at least 2x his income from his current job to his new job.
That's huge. That's life-changing.
And that's worst case.
Yeah.
Because it's such a bigger opportunity than that. And I think that's just that mindset of making it happen. Of just once you see these opportunities, I mean, some people are like, oh, he's lucky or whatever. Timing is great. And you do need some opportunities.
And sure, he had a friend and he got in that way. But what you said earlier about people pushing buttons and Indeed and resumes, I hear this all the time. I have clients that do this. And I'm like, well, did you follow up? They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? Email, phone, like go old school.
Blows my mind.
Like, come on.
Blows my mind. We've had plenty of people interview here that, I mean, show flip-flops and not prepared. And I don't really, I mean, I'm not hiring you.
Yeah.
But when you have, it's so obvious to me, I've done enough hiring that if I want to hire someone during the interview, that's a great sign.
Yeah.
Like I want to offer them a job
Yeah.
like right away. Then I know like this is the right person. And I think it's so easy because of so many people, the bar is so low, right? Because so many people don't do the extra
Sad.
work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it seems obvious to me, again, that I'm a quick start, go getter. I'm just going to make it happen. If it's something you really want to do, just make sure you get the job and do the best job you can.
Yeah.
Because all you want to do is add value. Everybody wants people that add value in their life. There's no question about it.
Sure.
I mean, I've done this with my advising, someone who's been extremely successful financially and in business. I add value to him and his company all the time because I want to get to that next level.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I can continue to add value to him, I feel like that in return, I'll learn and I'll get better and it's fun for me. It's just a win-win across the board.
And that's another thing is like sports is a great, if you want to get better, don't go play with people that are worse than you. Go play with people that are really good.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to get better. It's the same thing. You become who you hang out with, right? So
100%.
you go hang out with successful people or people that you admire. And that's how you do it.
Yeah. And get in, I always say, get belly to belly. Get in person, face to face. I mean, listen, we all go to
you're
Zoom.
in my space.
We go to Zoom. It's all right. You're gonna talk to me if I'm belly to belly.
Oh, man.
Let's get real with people. I mean, Zoom and phone calls and everything.
Yeah.
They are productive opportunities. You can create more productivity out of it. But I'm going to a conference, the All In Summit's a podcast that I absolutely love. Chamath and Jason and Freeberg and Sachs and all those guys. So I bought a VIP ticket to go to the event next month in September in LA. And the goal of going, there'll be some great topics and conferences, is to meet a couple of great people to add to my life of awesome people. And so I'm going to go. I'll do prep work before I go.
Yeah.
This should be an episode. I should actually do an episode about what I'm going to do.
All right.
And what happens because of it. But I'm not going to just show up and walk in.
No.
We're going to do research.
When is this?
I believe it's September 10th.
All right.
11th, 12th, something like that.
It's on.
In LA. So bought a VIP ticket. I'm going. It's going to be a blast. I love these guys. I love the podcast. And maybe I'll get to meet them. Maybe I'll sit down with them. I'm sure I'll get great content. But when I go to events, when I've gone to Tony Robbins Business Mastery in the past, I met a great guy named Adam. I sat next to him, became a friend. Those are the kind of connections I feel like that can really create those inflection points in your life, and just going and figuring out, well, who's going to be speaking? How can I prepare myself for this? I'm going to spend the time and money to go and travel there and go to an event. So why not prepare myself?
Oh, yeah.
And then compare, and let's just use one of the guys. Let's say it's Chamath. Someone else goes, sits down, we play poker at some event. I'm sitting on one side, the other guy's sitting on the other side of Chamath. If I start adding value to Chamath during the conversation, is this random example of this happening? I mean, I think it's just a different interaction, right? I've noticed this a lot. So many people want to take from people that are more successful than them. And I think it's better to lead with value. And then you know what? Don't ask for anything in return.
No.
Just find a way to add value to people. And those people, everybody wants more people adding value in their life.
And you'll stand out too. Because
you stand out, you separate yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because so many people think it's hard to stand out. And all it is a little bit of smart work, a little bit of hard work, and a little bit of preparation, because most people won't do the work.
And on top of all of this is just taking the action in the first place.
Yeah.
In general, like initiating.
Yep.
There was Tim Ferriss wrote a book. One of his books is Tools for Titans or Tools of Titans.
Yep.
And in there, Gabrielle Reese, who's a stud volleyball player, I throw this out to so many people, it's called the go first method is what she says. And it's like, we walk around with our phones and our heads are down. We don't initiate. We don't talk. We don't say hi. We don't smile. Start doing that. Like, just start saying hi, initiate whatever it is. Like for me, I was doing yoga 6 days a week. I'd go in, get on my mat, and I'd just be in my place, which is beautiful. But for that week, I'm like, I'm going to go first. So I'd go in, get on my mat, and I would say hi or whatever to the people. That week, I met so many different people and different opportunities just arose out of that. So just taking that first initial action, as small as saying hi or smiling, it's amazing what you'll find out.
I completely agree with that advice. I tend to be a little more extroverted. So wherever I go, my wife's like, oh boy, he's going to talk to this person. I talk to every Uber driver about their life.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I talk to waitresses and waiters. I probably turn into my dad in that regard. But I talk to people and I just try to, hey, what are you doing? How's it going?
Yeah.
And I try to add value to everybody that I come across. And I just think it works for me. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. some people are more introverted. But I think that so many people, if the world would be different if everybody adopted this concept of how can I add value to other people instead of how can I take from somebody.
Sure.
I know some guys that go to conferences and their whole goal is how do I extract
Yeah.
from this conference
Right.
these little bits and pieces of that I can use myself. And I do think that works in some regard, but it doesn't feel to me authentic. And I'd rather live off authenticity and be able to add value and just have a better life that way.
Sure.
And I don't know if that's the answer to making more money or not, but for me, it's a better path to a better life. Is because I enjoy helping people. It feels like a better chance to me, and it just feels like a better life.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered a bunch today about the mindset and scarcity and abundance. I hope people can take some actions and start adding value to some other people and just saying, you know what, it'll work out in the end.
Yep.
And it's weird how you look back. At least for me, it has been. I've looked back over time and thought, wow, this happened because of something I did a long time before. And then that person introduced me to somebody else.
Yep.
And so it's really hard if you continually think about today. But if you look back, you'll see examples of this in your life where you've done it and then it wasn't direct.
Yeah.
Indirectly was a benefit and changed the direction maybe of your life, whether it's a wife, whether it's a business partner, whatever it might be. And I find that fascinating. I'm always interested in that. So I appreciate the conversation today. Hopefully some people got some stuff out of this. If so, subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on imtheone.com. And then as always, stay curious and never stop becoming the one.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. Visit imtheone.com and ask me anything. And as always, stay curious and never stop becoming the one.